for Wyoming. Dr. Grandpre received a Master's of Public Health degree in 1998 and a PhD in Communication in 1999 from the University of Arizona, and started work at the Wyoming Department of Health in 2002. He currently manages the chronic disease and the maternal child health epidemiology unit, as well as the BRPAS program, and serves as the point person for hospital discharge data and is the data guru of Wyoming. So let's all welcome Dr. Grandpre.
Okay, so first I want to apologize for the jeans, but when I put my dress pants on this morning, the button flew off with the velocity that NASA could have used to nudge another asteroid. So we had to go with backup. So I'm here to talk about the data. I do the cancer data and lots of other data. So we'll start with mortality, leading causes of death. I know I'm just a happy ray of sunshine. So actually in 2020, heart disease was the leading cause. In 2021, it was actually cancer. COVID jumped quite a bit. COVID was big in 2020. And just to reiterate, these are people who died from COVID as the primary cause of death. You have a primary cause of death and up to 20 secondary causes of death. These are all primary. So these are people who died from COVID, not with COVID. Because you could die from cancer and with cancer, just the same. But those are people that died from COVID in 2021. And if you want more explanation as to mortality numbers and stuff, just ask. Chronic respiratory disease, COPD, was next, followed by accidents and adverse events. The only way that accidents make it to the top 5 on this list is if you combine everything, including all the vehicle accidents, automobile accidents, farming accidents, workplace accidents, all of that kind of stuff. Alzheimer's, which it was only a few years ago, relatively, that Alzheimer's became its own ICD code, where you could say Alzheimer's was the primary cause of death, and it's as a chronic disease has been kind of shooting up the charts, as Casey Kasem used to say. Stroke, suicide, and then diabetes. So basically, these 5 or 6 chronic disease usually are responsible for about 54% of all the deaths in the state every year. Okay, chronic disease is what people die from. The rabies and that kind of thing get the headlines, but it's cancer, heart disease, COPD, diabetes, etc. It's down here in 2021, mainly due to COVID. Okay, and we have jumped in the last few years. 2020, we jumped to almost 6,000 deaths, and 2021, we're at 6,580. That's quite a big jump. COVID had a lot to do with that, but it wasn't the only thing. The thing is that our population isn't growing that much. Our population has been kind of stagnant. So it's not just more deaths because there's more people in the state. No, that's not it. It's a lot of different things, and one of them we'll get to in a little bit. But for 2020, and the data is always a couple of years old, etc. It takes a while for us to get it all from all of the hospitals, etc. But we always have these 4 in some order, usually prostate and breast, and sometimes flip order, but they're always there. In 2020, we had 407 female and 10 male. That was kind of high. We usually have about 4 or 5, 10 is about double what we normally see for men for breast cancer. Then prostate, lung, colorectal, and then in 2020, it was bladder. Number 5 kind of rotates between bladder, melanoma, and non-Hodgkin's lymphoma in Wyoming. But for 2020, it was bladder, and we always include in situ with bladder because that's how most of them are found. They're usually found as an in situ tumor, but we had 2,810 cases diagnosed in Wyoming in 2020. Mortality wise, lung cancer is number 1. It's always number 1. It will be for a few years yet. Then colorectal, pancreatic cancer, very difficult to treat, very difficult to diagnose early. It's very hard to keep people living longer after pancreatic cancer. Ill-defined means that the cancer started somewhere, but by the time it's caught and discovered and treated, it's metastasized through the body to the point where you can't really say the primary was right here or etc. So, and then breast and prostate. We have not that many deaths, but we have a lot of people being diagnosed with it, which is a good thing. We wouldn't want to see those kind of numbers in mortality. So we had 1,031 people die from cancer in 2020. And that's usually about normal. That's about what we see. Again, in 2021, we had 1,151. So it did go up, but around 1,000, 1,100 is what we normally see. So after all that fun, here's puppy break. Okay. We'll keep going. I'm sorry. Anyway, so I will tell you. So this is this is the incident numbers. So this is 1970 through 74. It goes in 5-year increments from 1970 through 2019. These are the number of cancers diagnosed in Wyoming combined over a 5-year period. Okay, so we started back in 1970. We really didn't have a good way of collecting all of the data back then. But even though we did in the 80s and stuff, it still has gone up. It still continued to increase over time. And again, our population has not increased over time. We're not seeing a big rise in our population. However, what we are seeing is a rise in our population, the percentage over 65 years old. We're getting older as a state. We continue to get older as a state. Just back in 2013, the percentage of people 65 and over was 13%. It's now almost 18%. That doesn't seem like a lot, 18%, you know, you had to, probably wouldn't take a bet with just 18% of success. That isn't a lot. But population-wise, that's a lot. And it's not that 65 is a magic number. You don't turn 65 and then you're given cancer or you're given heart disease. It's been in you, it's been growing, you've been doing this stuff to get it for a long time. But when you turn 65 and retire, then you have time to go to the doctor and hang out. Then you have time to get your colonoscopy and find out you have colon cancer. Okay, it's not the number 65. It's that's when people start getting diagnosed, okay, because they have the time to go to the doctor. And this is just going to keep increasing. So they're figuring by 2030, this is going to be around 21, 22%, almost 1 in 4. 1 in 4 people over the age of 65, that's a lot. It's also the case that people will be born here, go to college, go somewhere else to live and get a job and work, raise their kids, then they retire back here. They sell their 2-room hovel in California for $1 million and come here to live. Well, they bring all of their chronic diseases with them. They're not homegrown, basically. And so we have to deal with them. Cancer, heart disease, all of them. But they are not adding a whole lot into the pot at the moment, okay? Good thing though is that we're at least starting to see, this is all cancers, and we're starting to see, at least here, we're starting to see kind of a bend where we're coming down where the rest of the nation is going up. And I do these for each of the top 15 cancers in the cancer report, which is going through process. It'll be out soon. I'll send you copies and you can find a copy online when it's out. But I saw this in quite a few of the cancers where Wyoming is going down, rest of the nation is going up. I hope it continues. But as you can see, and this is all cancer sites. So here's 65, here's 60, here's 65. Okay. You're gonna get diagnosed with cancer after 50. It starts shooting up. Okay. But we see some bumps in here, and I don't like that particularly. But most people are gonna get diagnosed when they're at least over 50, if not over 60 or 65. This is breast cancer. Yes. This is breast cancer just in women. It kind of going up a little bit, but not nearly like the rest of the country is. Okay. If anyone ever tells you that mammograms don't work, call me, I'll send you this slide. Okay. This is early versus late, early diagnosis versus late diagnosis of breast cancer in Wyoming back to the 70s. So in the 70s, almost 60% of all of our breast cancers were diagnosed at the late stage, and only about 40% at the early stage. Now, almost 70% are early, and only just over 30% are late stage. And what happened here? Mammograms, say it together. Mammograms. Okay. This is when, around 1985, that's when they became kind of the standard. That's when women started getting mammograms. That's when people told you to go in. I know you hate them, everyone does, but they work. Okay. This is
Colorectal.
Colorectal, sorry. So this is colorectal, again, kind of started to get close here in 1719, almost overtook, but now it's going down again. We're starting to see kind of widening. Lung cancer is great. I love this. This has been going down. I like that. That's very good. It's going up in other places. This had, I'm not sure exactly what's going on here nationwide, but that's a pretty steep increase. But our lung cancer in Wyoming keeps going down. Melanoma going down. You can see that mouth getting even bigger. Kind of reminds me of a snake. Here's the mouth. I want to see a great big open mouth on the snake. Okay, not necessarily because I hate everyone else in America, but I just want to see Wyoming going down. Okay. And then, pancreas is going up. It had been going down for a few years, starting to increase again now. Don't like that, but again, it's really hard to catch early. It's really hard to treat. And this is incident, so this is just getting diagnosed. And finally, prostate. Prostate finally starting to come back down again. this gap here where we were higher than the nation. For years, we had been right around the same rate as the rest of the nation. And then I don't know why, we just increased, but we're finally starting to go back down. We're finally getting back to that rate that's about the same as the rest of the country. And hopefully it continues down as well. So I have a lot of hope. I don't know if the numbers will play that out in the future, but I have a lot of hope. So I'll get in break. Okay. So when I was getting ready to do this presentation, one of the things that Star asked was, what can you tell us about the things that cause cancer? What's going on with that? So there's several risk factors for chronic disease, but the thing is that these four, they're kind of really big, but they cut across all chronic diseases: diabetes, COPD, heart disease, cancer. Okay, so smoking, too little physical activity, poor nutrition, and age. Can't really do a whole lot about age, but the other three we can. We know it's not simple. I'm testament to that, but things can be done. This is obesity in Wyoming. This is the percent of adults in Wyoming who are obese. And this is from the Behavioral Risk Factor Surveillance System, which I also run. And we ask people, it's a telephone survey that we do for just adults, people over the age of 18, and we ask their height and weight. And we know that people lie. So what we do is that we add a couple pounds to what women tell us they weigh. And we take an inch or two off of what men tell us how tall they are. Because women lie about their weight, men lie about their height. All of us want to be 6 foot tall, okay? But this has steadily increased over time. In 2020, we were at 18%. In 2021, we're at 32. So
It's based off of BMI then?
Yep. Based off of BMI. And the reason that this changes here in 2011, the color changes, is in 2011, the CDC changed the way that it's called breaking the data. And basically what it did was to add more cell phone answers. We did more cell phone surveys. And so it kind of changed the population. It changed some factors, some variables a lot more than others. So that's why, and CDC doesn't always like us to compare data after 2011 with data before 2011. But if you promise not to tell them, I'll continue showing. So this is obesity. This is diabetes, just to kind of show how these things fit together. And if you look at the incline of this trend line, it's about the same. It's about the same height, okay? So we started in 2020, we were at 5%. Even in 2021, it went down to 4.5. We're now at almost 9%. 9%. So almost 1 out of every 10 adults in Wyoming has diabetes. And diabetes, kind of like cancer, is sometimes hard to diagnose. And so there's even more people that don't know that they have it out there. Just like people that don't know they have cancer, but they're out there. This is some of the counties. I have more of these, but this is diabetes. And where we think, because we know that Native American people are predisposed to diabetes, but Fremont's only 11. Bighorn, 13.1. It's not always where you think it is. That's why we have to use the data. Just like Robert was saying. Who was Robert? Right? Okay. We have to use the data. We have to use data to figure out where the problem lies. Albany, only 5.5. There's a lot of college kids there. They're younger. Okay. Teton County, 9.8. They do a lot outside. Okay. 2.3, sorry. 2.3. Always the lowest. But even like Sublet is 5.5, but Sheridan is 10.2. That doesn't make it, yeah. It's not intuitive all the time. That's why we have to look at the data. This is obesity. So again, Teton, 11.3. They're doing good. Albany, 25%. But Campbell, 36. And then some of these other ones over 30. That means almost, and Uena, 37. Weston, 39. Almost 1 in 4 of the adults in Weston County can be considered obese. This is cigarette smoking. I like this. This is good. Okay, this is one of the ones where changing the way CDC did things did have an impact. We went from 19.5 in 2010 to 23 in 2011. That doesn't mean that suddenly a whole bunch of people decided to start smoking that year. It just means that when we started breaking and weighting the difference, the data a little bit different, we got a more accurate view of actually what was going on. It included a lot more younger people. It wasn't all just 65 and over or 50 and over. And so, but even given that, this has been going down. So down to 16.4%. I like it. That's why lung cancer deaths have been coming down. You don't smoke, you're probably not going to die from lung cancer. Check your radon still, but most of us that don't smoke aren't going to die from lung cancer. But these are the cigarette rates in each of the counties. So 25% non-sprayed, 1 in 4 still smoke. Okay. Teton 9.0, Natrona 21. Niobrara, right next door, 26.5. Still some work to do there. This is physical activity. So this is any physical activity outside of work. So 50% of people in 2019, we only ask this question every other year, and the 2021 data isn't quite ready yet. But 50% of people said they get no leisure time physical activity. So they go to work, they come home, that's it. No walking the dog, no anything, nothing. Okay. So 50%, half of Wyoming adults don't get any physical activity. And we can see this in some of these places. So Weston, 33%, so a third. Platte, 28. Niobrara, 37%. Kind of adds up over time. Eating fruits and veggies, eating recommended amount of fruits and veggies, yeah. I know Wyoming state vegetable is beef, but still, that's pretty bad. That's, holy cow, just order a tomato on the hamburger, come on. 10.1%. 10% is all that eat the recommended fruit and veggies. And I know it changes, and I know it's not always easy to understand. But the other thing too is that this is the US median. So 50% of states are above 13.8, 50% of states are below. As a country, we don't do well with it.
Why is it going down? It seems to go way down. Why?
Yeah, we did change this, so that drop was partially the way we rate the data, but there's a lot of fast food restaurants. There's a lot of kind of food deserts where you don't have the kind of selection that you would like to have. You don't have a lot of veggies, and you can only eat broccoli so many days of the week, even if you like it. And we see this too in here with Platte, 94%. So only 6%, and they farm in Platte. That's what their chief thing is farming. And they still don't eat fruits and veggies. Okay, so all of us need more veggies. Okay, this one is, then for screening, this is no mammogram in the last 2 years. So we still have some issues. Pretty much Wyoming in 2020 was only 37%. So 37% of women over the age of 40 had not had a mammogram in the last 2 years.
Do you think COVID had something to do with that though? But
it did at the beginning, but then there were a lot of, by 2021, you could get in to get a mammogram. You could get into, and this was 2020, because we only asked this question every other year in the even years. So it was asked in 2020, but it wasn't, it really didn't.
I think people were still scared,
Yeah.
let's put it that way,
Yeah. But historically, Wyoming has still been at the bottom of the list forever. Okay. But Lincoln County, we know that in some of the counties like Weston and Crook, they don't have a lot of facilities. We understand that. But even in places where they do, Park County, 36.6. Park County has mammogram facilities. Oh, sorry. Oh, now it won't let me. Oh, I turned it off. Come on. That mammogram? No. Okay, it's just playing now.
Technology.
Back to mammograms. Oh, sorry. Okay. So this is mammograms? Okay,
Dr. Grandpre, we've had a question from our virtual.
sure.
How much of the lack of screening studies is due to patients and how much is the honest of PCPs who may not be educating and scheduling? It's on us.
It's a bit of both. You have to take charge of your own health. No one's going to do it for you. You have to be your own advocate, but you have to get in and get these screenings. You have to make the appointment and keep the appointment. No one likes this. No one enjoys it. No one wakes up in the morning and goes, hot damn, today I'm going to get a colonoscopy. Never happened. But it's necessary. It is important to do this. And it's not just because we're telling you to. We know this works. Like I showed you before, the mammogram slide. We know it works. It helps. You can catch it earlier. Yes, ma'am.
I'm curious because
do you think that even earlier screening than what's currently recommended would be beneficial? Because I know for me personally, my insurance does not cover mammogram until like 40. And it doesn't cover a colonoscopy until 45. So there's, I mean, unless I want to pay out of pocket for those procedures, not really, or there's something else that they didn't mean it might be an issue. Or do you think they did that for the too well if they're not paying for those early screenings?
Insurance is always going to be an issue, but we kind of know, the research on when to schedule these things, the vast majority of them, you're not going to detect much in a 20-year-old woman unless you have a family history. And that's when talk to grandma, talk to your mom and dad. What did Uncle Ben die from? What did Aunt Sue die from? And if they don't want to tell you, make them tell you. Come on, you know this. And if it's okay, he was running moonshine and got into a car. Okay, well, that's a cool story, but you need to know your family history. You need to get, if your aunt and most of your cousins all have breast cancer, talk to your doctor about that. They can sometimes get mammograms paid for by your insurance if you have a family history and if you can prove that family history, because that's important. There's other things out there too, like familial, polyposis. You can get polyps in your colon from any time, basically. Once you're born, you can get these polyps. If FAP runs in your family, you can start getting earlier colonoscopies. And they remove the polyps, remove the risk, etc. Same thing. But learning your family history is important. Okay? So this is Pap tests. So these are women with an intact cervix who have not had a Pap test in 3 years. Okay? So again, we have some of them are better than others. 20% in Teton, 29% in Albany. Bighorn's at 43 though. Crook at 42. Goshen's at 41. And you do need specialized equipment to do this, but it's not like a mammogram. You don't need a whole building to do a Pap test. So access is a little bit easier with Pap tests, but we're still not getting it. This is anyone who's not up to date with colorectal cancer screening recommendations, which means a colonoscopy in the last 10 years, a sigmoidoscopy in the last 5, or an FOBT test in the last year. This is men and women. So almost half of the people in Carbon County are not up to date. Over half in Weston County. Again, we don't like them. It's not that fun, but you're not awake for it. They knock you out. You wake up afterwards, okay? And it's done. And before they start, they give you these cool drugs that knock you out. Okay? And granted, drinking a liter of stuff, but they're getting better at that. Last time I had a colonoscopy, it was just a bottle. It was a couple bottles of stuff that I had to drink. And they weren't worried if I finished it all, that kind of stuff. That's getting better too. I know the prep is oftentimes what people say, that's the worst thing, okay? But the US median in 2020 for this was 27.6. We're at 38. Wyoming's at 38. We're down on that list as well. We consistently run in the mid to high 40s and 50 or 51 in mammograms, PAPs, and colorectal stuff every year. Okay? every year that we do purpose. Good news, okay, good news again, okay? This is cancer, and these are the relative survivals from 2010 through 2010 through 2021. So with all cancers, 60 months, which we say 5-year cancer-free, means basically the cancer has been cured, you're good, all of that. So almost 75%, almost 3 out of every 4 people that get cancer in Wyoming live another 5 years and are cancer-free at the end of that. That's awesome. Okay. We still have some difficult cancers, but breast cancer for women, way up, almost 95%. Melanoma, 98%. Prostate and thyroid, both over 98% are living 5 years. We've gotten really good at treating some of these cancers, and the ones that we can treat well, and the ones that are high like this are the ones that have screenings. Okay. But when you don't get the screening, 65% colorectal. And a lot of that is not having those colonoscopies and sigmoidoscopies. Others have to do with the cancer just being hard to treat and catching early. Lung cancer, 23%. If you get lung cancer, you're gonna die from lung cancer. If you get prostate cancer, kind of depends on your age, but if you get it after you're 50 or 60, you're gonna probably die of something else. The prostate cancer will be around, but you'll die from something else, but you'll die with prostate cancer. Pancreatic cancer, very, very hard to treat, very hard to catch early. And for pancreatic cancer, they usually talk about months of survival, not years. If you make it 2 years, you're doing really well. But they're working on blood tests that help to detect pancreatic cancer earlier. And for kids, it's even better. So 90.3% relative survival rate after 5 years, 90% of kids are doing well. But there's still some issues in here, bone and joint cancers and brain and central nervous system cancers. But we saw an increase in leukemia in 2020, an increase in brain and CNS cancers in 2020. And sometimes that happens. We see these little increases from time to time, and it seems like God, everything is falling apart. But then the next year or two, it kind of comes back down again. Questions, comments? I know it's a lot of data to throw at you and stuff, but yes. No, Purpose always has 2